Ladies and gentlemen, we are here with the final discussion of the Rio-Tion Expo 2024. ESG has emerged as a crucial aspect of the real estate industry. But how much do we understand this and what has changed in the past years? Let's discuss more in this session, Building a Greener Future, the role of ESG in real estate. We are here with our moderator, Christina Tsiarta, Senior Advisor of Sustainability, ESG, and Climate Change, who will guide the discussions together with our esteemed speaker. The stage is yours.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for joining us here today. I'm very excited to be moderating this panel. My name is Christina, and I've been working in the sustainability space for over 15 years, across industries and across geographies, so it's exciting to be looking at the real estate sector today. Before I quickly introduce our panelists, I wanted to do a quick introduction to sort of set the scene. It's a world of new priorities for businesses. We're moving away from focusing solely on profit to looking at the various environmental, social, and governance impacts that affect businesses. And the real estate sector is really no exception. It's one of the biggest contributors to climate change. It's responsible for 40% of global greenhouse gas emissions. 28% of that comes from building operations. 12% of that comes from construction materials. So it has a lot of environmental impacts it needs to be managing. But increasingly also buildings are more than just physical spaces. They're becoming lifestyle products. They have social aspects to be looking at. There's an increased focus on health and wellness for occupiers, for buyers. And there is an expectation for buildings to be contributing to healthy and sustainable cities. So the industry has to grasp with its social aspects as well. But it's only organizations that have clear and transparent governance structures that can achieve sustainable properties that will then go on to have sustainable certifications like BREEAM and LEED and Passive House. And a property like the one we're here today, it's the first building in Cyprus to have achieved BREEAM Excellent and an 80% score at the design stage. So it's very fitting to have this panel here at this resort today. So with that in mind, I want to quickly introduce our speakers. On my left, I have Marios Georgoudis, who is a municipal engineer of the newly formed municipality of West Limassol. Next to him is Alkis Dikaios, who is a partner of Alkis Dikaios and Associate Architects and president of the Cyprus Architects Association. Then is Miguel Laraspa, who is a senior advisor at KPMG's Management Consulting Department, providing ESG advisory services to clients. And last, Matthias Meyer-Lutterloh. Did I do a good job with that? Yeah, okay. The founder of Digital Nomads Properties and a serial entrepreneur with experience across many industries. So it's great to have everyone here today. Let's kick off our discussion with a question addressed to Alki, if that's okay.
Of course.
When we talk about sustainable buildings, Alki, where does that start? Is it the design? Is it the choice of construction materials? Is it the processes we put in place? What's most critical?
I think the most critical part of to approach sustainable design, I think it comes down to each and every one of us in terms of we have to make the effort and the decision that in construction we have to take this path forward. So if we as designers or even the clients or even the authorities do not decide that that's the way forward, the future, we're not going to achieve this. So from the very first moment, we need to understand that in order for us to move forward in a greener future, we need to take responsibility of our actions. And this is whether it is design, this is whether we're speaking in terms of legislation, and many other factors. So in Europe at the moment, what is being promoted is reuse and renovation. It's not so much new construction. And this has been already established in Northern European countries and Spain, Italy, etc. In Cyprus, we're lagging behind at the moment. So with the new organization authorities, the planning authorities, and all of this restructuring that has happened recently, we need to push towards that direction. So this is, of course, by 2030, we will be required to have a certain amount of carbon footprint to be able to not pay penalties in the European Union, but we need to to start this immediately. We're already late in terms of this. So each and every one of us needs to understand that it's up to us, it's our responsibility. And then, of course, this will lead up to applying new legislation, new ways of constraints that we can or cannot build. What do we do with wasted material? To reuse wasted material, to find ways to promote, to give incentives to investors that want to invest in existing buildings, historical buildings. For example, we have historical listed buildings that receive incentives, but we do not have incentives for buildings up to 1950 and beyond, or 1930 and beyond. They're not listed buildings, so they're being demolished. And demolishing it has a very big impact in terms of the carbon footprint. Why demolish when you can renovate and reuse? So give investors, give designers, or give a client the incentive to invest in an existing building. This way we reduce the economic factor, and we also reduce the carbon footprint negative impact.
Okay, thank you for that, because actually I was reading that the emissions generated during the production of construction materials accounts for 80% of a building's greenhouse gas emissions throughout its life cycle. So obviously, if you're going to construct new, it's going to have a lot more of an environmental impact rather if you were to renovate an existing stock. So with that in mind, let's shift to Marios. Alkis talked about incentives and regulation and, the role of authorities. Can you speak a bit about the role of local authorities in promoting ESG for the real estate sector?
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Christina, for the question. Basically, the role of the government is for the promotion of the sustainability is crucial and instrumental. Alkis said it very correctly. It's the legislations. First of all, the government has this big leverage of the legislation. They need to come forward and place the necessary regulatory measures in order to promote sustainability. I will give a small example from my role as a municipal engineer that I was giving building permits to investors or to owners or to developers. I'm sure Alkis knows about that. It's the Order 1 of 2014 that basically if the building was fulfilling two requirements, the first one to be of energy efficiency category A, and the second to have at least 25% of its energy generated from renewable energy sources, they were getting 5% more density for the building. So that was triggering the owners or the developers to make the investment of installing PVs or choosing materials to make it category A, which it was a smaller investment than the value of the density that they were getting back. It was a measure that was a regulatory measure put in place with big success. I can tell you from my experience, at least 90 to 95% of the cases I was seeing, they were using this measure. But it's not enough. If we want to promote sustainability, we need to come forward as a government and introduce more similar measures. It can be other measures like expedited permitting for green buildings or something similar. It can be also some financial incentives like tax credits or rebates for the green buildings, or we see the banks that they have a big profitability. They can make an agreement with the government and give lower loans, low interest loans for green buildings, for example.
Sorry to interrupt. I was going to say, do you think the recent reform to the local authorities will help with this, or perhaps, maybe, hopefully?
They can push for this. Okay. Of course, they can, because we have the experience and we see what is the demand of the market. So if you come forward and communicate with the central government that we see that these measures they are successful, they will come forward with something similar. So yeah, in a nutshell, it's very crucial, the role of the government to promote sustainability.
Thank you for that. So you both mentioned that another key driver is regulation. So I'm gonna shift to Michaela now. So what do you think is the role of regulation in helping move the needle on ESG for the sector? And what do you think is the role of data and benchmarking and reporting in being a catalyst for sustainable change, not to be seen sort of as an unnecessary burden?
Thank you, Christina, for the question. Indeed, regulation plays a critical role in advancing ESG principles within the real estate sector. And that is why the European Union understands and recognizes the importance of adapting and adapting sustainable practices, and has already implemented legislative frameworks related to real estate, such as the Energy Performance of Building Directive, the Energy Efficiency Directive, to push real estate sector in achieving the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions. As you mentioned before, buildings account for over 1/3 of global greenhouse gas emissions. And that is why these regulations are essential in achieving these targets. And this target will ensure that new developments, retrofits, or renovations of buildings will ensure reduced and will ensure improved energy performance, and will promote the nearly zero energy buildings. So yes, on the other hand, there are regulations that pressure investors and property owners to measure, report, and therefore publicly disclose sustainability-related information. Such regulations are the EU Taxonomy Regulation and the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, and with the aim of ensuring transparency to stakeholders and to obligate companies to integrate sustainable practices within their business strategies, and to at the end of the day to promote and to publicly disclose their impacts, their social and environmental impacts of their companies to the environment. So yes, real estate companies need to proactively embrace these regulatory changes, and if they do so, they are likely to benefit from increased investor demand, and of course, as said before, better performance of their assets.
Okay, thank you for that. So I wonder, even sectors which haven't had legislation driving them might be a bit more forward than the real estate sector in sustainability. So if I can address a question to Matthias, who's been working across different industries, fashion and hospitality. In your experience working with these different industries, are there any learnings on sustainability that you think can cross over into the real estate sector and help make the industry more sustainable?
Yeah, thanks for the question. I mean, there are a couple of things. I find it very interesting. We found here one argument which is like decision-making focus. The other one is regulations. The other one is you have to incentivize or even force people to do something. I think this is actually the end of the, let's call it downstream. It's the end of the thing. We have to find a way which is actually more 2024, that we have a consumer-driven approach. And consumer-driven approach means that the consumer actually makes decisions and driving this kind of decisions back to the producer. So far, all of this is top-down approach, and we need a centric approach. And there are a lot of industries that actually already are in this let's say, transition. We talked about maybe later with the fashion and stuff. I give one example which is based blockchain. I don't want to change your way with the questions, but I think it's matching better now. For example, blockchain is a driver in consumer-centric changes. Why? Because it's decentralized. It gives immediately transaction between people. There are no gatekeepers and nothing. And there is the way of tokenization that thinks, okay, we tokenize a building, and then we have a fractional ownership, and it's easier, and we have people that can invest easier in that. But what should we tokenize? Should we tokenize a family house, or should we tokenize maybe something that works, because it's the product market fit that we have to find. And if we want to see who is actually in the moment the market fit for a tokenized product or fractional ownership, these are the new people, Gen Z people, that actually have a very high conscious about, is this actually a sustainable product? Is this a conscious product? Is it a product that matches with my lifestyle? And we come later maybe to the same point. It's like we have to understand that the new generations, they are not living and investing and thinking as we do. And we cannot do any more top-down decision making. We have to really make a product that works for these people. And they want sustainable products. And that is then a consumer-driven change, which is different from regulations. It's different from, let's say, okay, what kind of materials can I do? And coming back to materials, in Cyprus mainly, for a lot of reasons, because people can do it and because it's easy, we have concrete production, which is one of the worst climate killers. 8% of all the CO2 emission is actually from concrete. But there are so many innovative materials that we can use, and we can see that around us, everything is going in this direction. I'm working with a project where we combine AI, blockchain, and reforestation and innovative materials like bamboo, which is something that is carbon positive actually, in areas in Africa and in Sri Lanka where it's bigger than Cyprus. So we have to start there at the source, and then, okay, we cannot change everything to be built here in bamboo because we have a different climate, I think, but we can at least reduce the use of concrete. We can reduce the use of timber. And we can reduce the use of steel, because cross-laminated bamboo, for example, is stronger than steel and lighter, and at the end even cheaper. So all this at the end are things that, for example, the blockchain can verify from the primary source until the final building, inclusive all the materials, and the consumer can say, okay, that's something that I like, it's certified, it is actually in line with how I want to live, and then force the constructors or the designers or the architects that they have to apply to that. And that's then a consumer-driven change. And I think we are there, we're just not there in Cyprus, but it's in a lot of other industries in the world that actually this is happening right now.
Thank you for that. Actually, that's really insightful. And thinking about the different materials that exist, firstly, it's about educating yourself and knowing that there are options beyond what you might be aware of. So that's great. And I think you introduced a very, very important driver, which leads me to our next question, which is market demand. So back to Alki, how have you seen, in your role as an architect, demand from clients evolve in Cyprus in their request for sustainable properties, whether that's commercial or residential? And what would you say are the primary drivers for these requests?
Yeah, that's a good question. If I can go back to Matthias's comment, because I think it directly relates to your question, Christina. Matthias said that in order to achieve a greener future, we need to understand that a top-down approach is not the ideal approach. A top-down approach, if you put on top the authorities, the legislation, and you put at the bottom the receivers, the clients, the people, then it's difficult to apply it, especially in Cyprus. So if you have a bottom-up approach, if you create awareness that a client goes to an architect and says, look, you need to make my house sustainable. I do not want to pay electricity every 2 months. I want my electricity to be zero. How do you do this? How do you achieve this? And I can say from a personal experience in the office, let's say, maybe we have approximately, an architectural office has approximately 10, let's say, houses per year to design. One of those houses can be a passive house. So a passive house means that it's a term that is being used by the German standards, that you can achieve a zero energy house, which means it's almost off grid. You do not use electricity, you do not use heating, cooling, etc., etc. So you find ways, materials, mechanical installations that are sustainable in order for this to be achieved. So in order to be able to spread this idea out, we need to start having examples, having passive houses that are being shown as examples, either by real estate owners, either by clients, either by real estate companies, either by architects, either by, I don't know, whatever else relates to this, so that people can see the actual profit that they can make out of a passive house. And of course, it's not just about materials to reuse wood or ceramic tiles or concrete. At the end of the day, it comes down to this bottom-up approach, awareness that we need to have as less impact as we can to the environment. So if a developer wants to have in mind that their only approach is to have profit and create buildings that are have the square meters that are required and just sells them, then this is okay. This is not going to go anywhere. If you start educating the people that the right approach is sustainably throughout time to reduce your impact, then this becomes more, let's say, the correct approach for the future. And this is the idea. So materials, I think if you manage to design a house that's correctly oriented, so that it doesn't get a direct sunlight inside and heats up the space, if the orientation of the windows are correct, the sizes of the windows are right, the wall thicknesses are the correct standards to reduce heat or cold, then you manage to reduce also the mechanical installation systems. So a question might be asked by the people here: isn't it more expensive to build sustainable houses or passive houses? No, it's not more expensive. It's actually the same amount of money that you spend to build a house that's not sustainable. Because if you make the correct, if you give the correct orientation, if you give the correct window opening so that the wind comes through the house, and you use only one heating and cooling system that's very minimal because all of the other factors were taken into account, then you do not need to install underfloor heating, a heat boiler, and all of this machinery that cost approximately 33-35% of a cost of a building. So this comes down to residential houses as well, but it comes down to office houses, commercial buildings, all of these buildings. So we need more expertise and skills in order to design correctly for a greener future.
Thank you, Alki. I wonder if there's something to be said about all the stakeholders within the industry taking more of an active role in educating clients, people like me who might want to build a house and are not aware of the different options that are there. I'm just putting that out as a food for thought, because I think there is a lot of lack of awareness and understanding from people who are outside of the industry and who are looking to either invest or build. You want to add to that, Mario?
Yeah, I want to.
Yeah.
I also had the same. Here is the role of the association of either the architects or the engineers, or even the technical chamber of Cyprus that has the engineers as members, and the government as well. The government needs to come forward to bring the experts in Cyprus that will speak about this, because you need to invest in educating the people and the professionals how to achieve sustainability. Because Alkis is right. If you invest in sustainable materials, you can extend the lifespan of your building as well.
Okay. Thank you for that. So with that in mind, say we've done all the work, we've built or renovated a sustainable property. Miguel, how do you think that the ESG credentials of a property can help with its operating costs and property values, but also looking at what benefits that might have for the health and wellness of occupiers and of cities as a whole?
Absolutely. ESG attributes, ESG characteristics can significantly impact both operating costs and property values of real estate assets in many ways. So by incorporating energy management systems, renewable sources, smart architectural design, and all of these attributes that Alkis said before for passive design, etc., sustainable buildings can significantly reduce operating costs. And this is also another factor that adds value to a property when selling it. So by investing in energy-efficient HVAC systems, lighting, insulation, can lead to lower energy consumption and at the same time, and consequently, lower utility costs. And we see nowadays many companies that buy or rent green buildings, especially to improve their corporate image, which is something very important in today's market. So this positive perception can lead to higher occupancy rates and of course higher rental income. And at the end of the day, these properties, when it comes to valuation, are valuated higher. But beyond all of these environmental factors, we need to shift our focus to the social attributes as well. So social aspects of ESG can promote health and well-being of occupants. So properties that have social aspects properties that provide healthier indoor environments, they provide good air quality, natural lighting, and green access spaces, and so on. Can improve tenant satisfaction, tenant experience. So this can lead to, if we are talking about commercial buildings, of course, this can lead to longer lease terms and reduced tenant turnover, and again, making the properties more viable. So yes, we need to focus not just on the environmental aspects, but also our impact to the occupants and human-centered buildings.
Thank you, Micaela. Would you like to add to that? Actually?
Yes, because Micaela raised a very significant aspect of the social sustainability, of the social aspect of it. We're speaking here in this panel about buildings. It's not just about buildings, because Marios is here as well in terms of the municipality, let's say. It's also about creating sustainable pavements, roads, parks. If you have sustainable buildings that are not supported by a sustainable environment, then you've done nothing. So we are, of course, responsible for our private properties, but then you have the municipalities and the planning authorities that are responsible for creating a sustainable urban environment that needs to support this idea of the awareness that we're also speaking about.
And to add to that, you may have seen on social media now with the recent heat waves, the pictures showing the difference in temperatures of the surrounding air. If you've got a sustainable urban environment with, green trees and everything, versus if it's just concrete, back to Matthias's comment, and pavements and all that. So, Maria, if you wanna address that and also add to that, how can we help the sector become more sustainable, perhaps with technology, given your background in IT?
Yeah, of course. By the way, I will give an example about what you said about the role of the municipality. We just announced last week a tender for the development of one infrastructure project at Ipsonas, which is around €3 million, and it's a redevelopment of an existing road with a length of 2.5 kilometers. It's a budget of €3 million that we got the subsidy from European Union. And we are going to restructure the road and make bike lanes and extend the width of the pavements. And also we are going to plant around 500 trees towards this. So yeah, if you have actually a mayor or the political head that has the vision, the municipalities can work towards a more sustainable environment for the citizens that live at this municipality, actually. Now about the technologies. Of course, we live in the era of smart infrastructure and new technologies and collection of data and creation of new technologies or materials. And we need to leverage on that. It's the big challenge. It was mentioned before that the owners or the developers, they consider that they need to invest funds in order to create something more sustainable or to achieve building resilience. As Alkis said, that's not the point. Apparently, it's a matter of lack of awareness or education, which might be the case in Cyprus as well. So how can, as the local authorities or the government, to introduce, to promote the building resilience, is to use the legislation, to modernize the legislation, and import in the existing legislation the use of digital data or technologies or methods to promote the building resilience. There are several technologies that are being used, either energy management systems. We see the smart building technologies like automation in buildings that basically what they do, they optimize the energy usage in the building. Or we have renewable energy integration. We see technologies that efficiently use the energy that is generated by the renewables that someone installs at his house. And again, you said something before about the footprint that the construction is leaving to the environment. There are new materials or new modular construction technologies that can reduce this footprint to the environment. There are several technologies that were developed during the last years, and we need somehow to make, I will not say force, but encourage the developers or the owners to do. But this brings the roles of the architects that chooses the materials to encourage the person that the investors or the developers to make use of these technologies.
So these are technologies that are technologies for those who are building, renovating, but also for the users, like the people who, the occupiers, the people who will be living.
Yes.
Okay.
Of course, it's either technologies before the construction, for the planning, and there are technologies after that can extend the lifespan of the building as well.
I think this also goes back to the previous point about raising awareness and informing people that these options exist and that they can help you throughout using your building, occupying your building to make it more sustainable in the way you're operating it. Okay, so thank you for that. And now my final question to Matthias. You talked a bit already about blockchain and tokenization and how that can help make the sector more sustainable. If you would like to explore that a bit more. And also, what do you see as being the future trends for the sector, particularly here locally in Cyprus?
Okay, especially with the blockchain, I think I'm trying to put it abstract because we have a change in consumer behavior. So we have a change how people live. We have digital nomads. We have people that want to live, younger people that anyway, until they have maybe their kids, they want to live in a couple of different countries. They want to have, we have remote workers. All this comes together to a different behavior globally, and I think Cyprus is not yet aware about that. So that is something that we have to really focus on. Meaning that I came, for example, I'm the only foreigner here, I think. I came to Cyprus as a choice, right? You have two ways to choose. You can vote, or you can use your feet. You can go away if you don't like something, or you can go to somewhere where you like it. And today, my choice, I don't know if it would be Cyprus, because Cyprus is really lacking behind today's lifestyle, the global lifestyle. But what I mean with that is newer generations will actually expect that they have certain standards. And we have to go away from the idea that a house is a house and brick and mortar to the idea that a house is a part of our lifestyle and how we want to live, and not only in one place, or also how we want to interact. I want to compare it with a phone, a smartphone. They became interesting and really so successful when they have not been anymore a phone, but the physical environment for whatever application I want to put in. And this is actually something that we have to kind of transfer to houses, because theoretically, if I want to come into a house for 3 months or 1 year or 2 years, as in Cyprus we have a lot of fluctuation, like with people coming, going from different industries. Theoretically, it should be that when I arrive in the house should be set as I like it, right? Everything there, like my soul, should be then already, my digital soul or my digital twin should already be in the house. And this is something that we can actually apply with blockchain. It's a bit more abstract, it's maybe a bit far-fetched, because we don't even have the technologies that are going much further than Internet of the Things and this stuff. But we have to look further than just what is the first glance of a solution, like if you say, what do I do to have the supply chain transparent? What do I do that I have more efficient construction? What do I do that my fridge turns off if nothing inside, or the lights turn off if I'm not in the room? But it's much more. We have so much more possibilities today with blockchain, with tokenization, that actually applies to our new way of living. And that is the point that we said before, like fashion and hospitality. Hospitality tries to, or what I actually had to say before, that hospitality tries to give an experience, right? A value. They don't just make a product. And this is where we have to go. We have to find that living, real estate, and who I am is merging into one, into one experience. And that's, I think, what we have to do. And there we have technologies that can support it, but it's a bit far-fetched, as I say. But if we look into that, if we work with legislation, with architects, with new technologies, and we push it further, and then in such a small country like Cyprus, I'm always amazed that we still have the cars that need petrol. I find this crazy in a place where it's like 200 or 300 kilometers driving. All the other people say, oh my God, I cannot have an electric... If, okay, the batteries are okay or not, I don't know. I don't want to touch it. But if I drive 300 kilometers, then I don't have any more energy in my car. But here it's fine. Why don't we have only electrical? Why don't we have this Cyprus as the prime example of a fully an energy, a zero energy wastage country? I cannot understand this. And, that is the last thing, Cyprus has to apply to that, because so many other countries are getting much more interesting and much more reachable for the people. I have a project in Bali, and it's kind of, okay, I always had my business in Asia, but for me it's so easy today, forget the CO2 emission, to jump in the airplane and come somewhere else. And people can make the choice. And if the choice is not anymore only related to money, incentives, maybe the job, you might not choose Cyprus. So you have to change.
I agree. I absolutely agree. And I think it's no longer a choice. It's something that the industry needs to do to be resilient and to continue being competitive in the long run. Particularly, as you say, because other countries are way far ahead. And why would someone choose to live here or invest here if they can find better, more sustainable options, which are the way of the future somewhere else? So with that, I'd like to thank all of our panelists for your contributions today. And we do have, I think, a minute or so if there are any questions, anything that someone might like to ask before we wrap up for today. Yes, please. I think one's coming. Yes, thank you. Your choice. Your choice.
We can hear you, though.
Yeah, we can hear you very well.
If you'd like to address it to someone specifically, let us know.
No, generic question actually. Sorry for being late. I couldn't attend from the beginning. But the second part was amazing, very interesting, generally interesting topic. I just have a generic question. What do you see as the most or the biggest obstacles, for example, for Cyprus to have more sustainable buildings, lifestyle, and everything. Maybe you can name as much as you want, or main 3 or main 1, please, just to understand from the not theoretical but practical, like what exactly are these obstacles? Thank you.
Thank you for that. I think it might be a combination of things. So does everyone want to do a bit of input to that? I'll start with Alkis.
Sure. Yes, I think the biggest, it's a very good question. I think the biggest obstacle is our mentality. We need to change our mentality. So at the same time, if we manage to change our mentality and our approach, and we, for example, we finished our discussion in terms of cars. Why doesn't everybody doesn't own an electric car? Why don't we go through the city with bicycles? We have perfect weather 9-10 months out of the year. So what's the obstacle? I think we need, of course, to change our mentality. And then I think we need to work with authorities to create opportunities for this to happen. I think in terms of the buildings and the construction part, it's easier. I think we're starting we're very slow, but we're kind of starting to make this sustainable design approach. But I think it needs to be enforced and supported by the other decisions to make more sustainable cities, to make more sustainable κυκλοφορία through the cities, through our cities. To make our cities walkable, and these are decisions that need to be made by authorities as well, with our support.
Would anyone like to add to that?
I have a very short answer to this. I think we need the municipalities to really promote something
it's all
perfect.
On you.
we need very good architects to promote. We need very good regulations, and we need to actually improve the lifestyle. So it's actually the 4 approaches that we are not yet where we should be to attract foreign investors and foreign more people coming, and also that the Cypriots maybe follow that lifestyle, because the change of especially in Cyprus, change of mentality comes here more out of I see something that I think it's good, so I follow it. So that's, I think, the entire thing that is needed. It's a complex change.
Thank you for that. And if I may add, I also think it's lack of awareness. So, I think there's a real role here for the industry to do more on education and awareness so that people know what choices they have, because if you're aware of the choices, then you're more likely to make them. So thank you everyone for your insights. Thank you everyone for being here with us today, and to Realty on Expo for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So much.